how the bodies that were recovered from Titanic were treated. It might not surprise you to know there was a class system even in death. The same elements that went into the original Titanic disaster went into the Titan implosion. It was a hubris. It was money over sense. The same arrogance that nothing bad could possibly happen. And I thought, wow, over 100 years later, the Titanic is still killing people for the same reason.
Love listening to Tech Tales? Be sure to smash that subscribe button so you never miss a seaworthy story, fascinating insight, or incredible behind-the-scenes moment. Climb aboard, stay shipshape, and catch every episode fresh off the boat the second it drops. Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the Deck Tales podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is where we dive headfirst into life at sea. From stunning destinations to unexpected storms, our guests have stories that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed a tear. Whether you're a seasoned sea dog or simply curious about life on board, Deck Tales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Nelson Aspen, a man who's turned a lifelong Titanic obsession into a full-blown career. From Hollywood red carpets to the decks of luxury liners, Nelson is an entertainment reporter, author, and host of one of the world's top Titanic podcasts. He's dived deep, figuratively, into the ship's history, its mysteries, and why we're still obsessed over a century later. So let's anchor up and dive right in.
Hey, mate.
Hello, Nelson.
How you doing, mate? I don't want you to cough up a lung.
You caught me just as I was taking an inhaler.
I thought maybe you were vaping.
Oh dear. No, I don't touch the stuff. Anyway, so we're here. This is your Deck Tales. Nelson, I have to say, first of all, because normally I sort of say to the guests how we know each other or how I came about their work. And if I don't say how this time, then I'll hear about it from my girlfriend. She was watching YouTube, as she tends to do when she's working in the background, Kirsty Fla on YouTube.
Yeah.
So 11 days ago, she posted on the 23rd of November, 2025, "Ooh la la, this is so juicy!" Exclamation. And you're sat right next to her, and it's a 45-minute video.
In my hotel room. That was my hotel room in Beverly Hills, yeah.
Ooh la la, indeed. And so, yeah, she'd watched it, and she said to me, "Sam, this guy I've just found, he's got a book. He's, might be interested, and you should reach out to him." Oh, look, there you are, primed and ready.
And I appreciate the background that you have generated for me.
Yes, thank you.
I guess that must be after one of the stacks fell off, because you're missing a stack.
I know. Well, it's not exactly, and I'm sure you can probably pull it apart because it's not completely accurate. But then, yeah, we'll get into it. So, first and foremost, now I've explained how I've reached out to you. My girlfriend's the one to thank on this occasion. Please, Nelson, Mr. Aspen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, please call me Nelson. And okay. I'm going to put on our matching glasses so that I can see your handsome face a little bit better. But yeah, my name is Nelson Aspen, and I'm grateful to your girlfriend for finding me on Kirsty's YouTube page doing my gossip routine, because for 30 years I worked in morning television as an entertainment reporter. Kirsty was a colleague of mine. She's a Nordic entertainment reporter, and so we knew each other that way. And now that she's got the YouTube show, she has asked me to go on it a few times. And what's astounding to me are the numbers that she gets. You referenced that one video that you saw that was posted like within 6 days or something. It got 70,000 views. So it is, as a kid who grew up in television, working in television, those kinds of numbers just are astounding to me, and makes me very responsive when I'm invited to do a podcast, because podcast never sounded so thrilling to me because I'm a TV guy. However, when you do a podcast, it lives forever, unlike a TV appearance. And, if you didn't tune in, you missed it. And a lot of the TV stations don't post things, and I'm really enjoying doing the podcasts. And since I retired from morning television, I did 10 years for British morning television. You may have, or maybe your parents grew up watching me on British morning TV.
What year was that?
I was a regular from 1990 to 2000, approximately. No, like 92 to 2002. It was 10 years.
Oh, what channel?
This Morning with Judy and Richard is where I started.
Okay.
And then I moved to GMTV and Lorraine. And I was very happy doing that. I lived in Los Angeles at the time doing the Hollywood news. I'm in New York now, so if you hear sirens, you'll know why, because of where you are.
Well, unless it's mine, because I'm in London. They might be something.
Well, then there you go. Well, if we both disappear from screen, we're hiding under the desks. But yeah, so I was doing British morning TV for 10 years, and it was tough from LA because I would go into the studio at 11 p.m. and wouldn't wrap until 2 in the morning. And then one day out of the blue, I got a call from an Australian morning show. And they asked me if I would like to be their daily entertainment reporter. And I said, well, it depends on what the time difference is, because Britain's killing me. It's killing me. I wouldn't get home till 3 in the morning, and then I couldn't fall asleep till 4 in the morning. It was bad. And I did it for a decade.
You were a vampire.
And yeah, I was a shift worker. So the Australian time was from noon to 3. And I was home in time for happy hour. It was the dream job for 20 years.
Big difference.
So, I retired and became a full-time novelist, and I have cranked out 4 books since I left the Australian show. And the one that we're talking about today is Kindred Spirits, a Titanic tale, because I do this Titanic-themed podcast. A huge hit as far as those things go, as far as Titanic podcasts go. And
there's not many of them, are there?
Well, there are quite a few. I think it was Apple just came out with the ranking of all the Titanic podcasts, of which there are zillions. Titanic Talk was ranked number 4. We've done like maybe 60 episodes, and it's fascinating because I've always been a Titanic nut. But now I have a platform to interview authors, historians, super fans, descendants of Titanic passengers. I'm traveling the world now, speaking on Titanic. And so when you reached out, I was like, well, I do have a cruise connection. Aside from being a lifelong cruise enthusiast, my parents raised me on cruise ships. In recent years, maybe over the last 7 or 8 years, I've been hired to work cruise gigs. First as a singer. It's a very different experience from being hired now as a speaker. My next gig is in January of 2026. Oh, and I wore my Cunard. I did a gig on the maiden voyage of the Queen Anne in January of 2025, speaking about entertainment, speaking about the Titanic. And I'm going back on Cunard's Queen Mary 2 in January 2026. And we're going to be taking Titanic's route from Southampton to New York. And over the wreck site, I will be speaking about the Titanic. So
for a tempting quite a little bit there, Nelson. Come on.
Dream come true for, we call ourselves Titaniacs.
Titaniacs. So you were a nut before. Now you've got the podcast. Are you like a recovering addict now? What is this?
You know what? I found my people.
Yeah.
I have found my people. And, we go to these Titanic weekends, exhibitions here in New York. They have a new virtual reality immersive experience. You put the things on and you go down to the wreck. And from the wreck, you go back in time and you it's really cool. You can explore.
How could you resist?
It was unbelievable. And so I'm doing a book signing at the virtual reality experience tomorrow. So it's that old cliche about do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I worked my ass off for 60 years, and now I'm getting just to play Titanic every day.
Oh, that's amazing. They've got that immersive experience here in London as well.
You got to do it. If you haven't done it, you must.
I will then. Okay. And you said about the podcast, it's something that's always going to be there. The content for the podcast is always, I think, pretty evergreen in that it's usually a lot of retrospective stories that people are sharing. So it's not like trending news and things that happened just now that's gone out of style. I
Well,
mean,
nothing is more evergreen than Titanic. It's the ship that will not sink, even though it did. And what's amazing to me, if you're going to talk about cataclysmic tragedies, Titanic sinking it was the 9/11 of its day. It was world news. It was shocking. It was horrible. It was a huge loss of life. And the irony is that here we are 113 and a half years later, and it has become romanticized. I mean, James Cameron wanted to put Romeo and Juliet on the ship. My book is no, I wouldn't say it's romantic, but it's a historical fantasy based on my own reincarnation story. Yes, I have a reincarnation story about the Titanic.
we'll
But
get
I
to
also,
that.
yeah, I also realized that the gay story of Titanic had never been told. And, they didn't talk about it in 1912, but there were homosexuals on board the Titanic. So I've written the first gay Titanic story. And I'm proud. I'm proud to give life to those characters. I mean, they have to be characters because I can only go on what limited research I have. But yeah, I mean, I'm delighted that I have my own little piece of Titanic legacy.
Well, what's funny is because of obviously the brand on this, Deck Tales, people go, "Oh, what's that? Is that like Titanic and shit?" And I'm like, well, it's broader than just the Titanic, right? It's any ship. But you're the first person in like 55, sort of almost 60 episodes that I've actually kind of had a proper conversation with about the Titanic in any depth, which is not bad going. But yeah, you're the first one.
It's amazing to me in all of my cruising experience, both as a passenger and as an employee, how everyone seems to universally have some connection or interest in Titanic. And every person that seems to go on a cruise wants to get a picture on the staircase because of the Titanic image locked into their brain, or do the Kate and Leo pose at the front of the ship. I mean, I am told that after God and Coca-Cola, Titanic is the most recognized word in the world.
Wow.
There's Coca-Cola. I would wager Mickey Mouse might be in there somewhere, and Titanic. But it is that huge an aspect of pop culture. And I'm just a ship freak as well. So when I go on a cruise, I did a Ritz-Carlton yacht cruise last year, just because I thought I thought it would be a fabulous vacation, and it really was. For as much as I love the huge ocean liners and cruise ships and all that, the yacht cruise was spectacular. It was something else. And I took the tour of the bridge with the captain, and I'll show you later. I have a nautical tattoo on my leg, and I wanted him to indulge me in my passion for the film The Poseidon Adventure.
I
It's
love
my
that.
favorite film of all.
That's my favorite.
Well, now I'll show you.
Oh, he has to show us the tattoo. Hold on. Before you show, because I've seen that film more times than I can count.
All right. You want to guess what it is?
I've got to guess. I'm gonna guess it's Hackman.
No, my favorite
No.
character was Carol Lindley, but it's not a character.
It's not a character. It's a quote.
Nope.
It's it's an image of some kind. It's the
All
ship
right,
going down.
I'll give you a clue. So in the dining room before the tidal wave hits, Stella Stevens, who plays Linda Rogo, says to the captain, played by Leslie Nielsen,
Yes.
she looks up at the sculpture of Poseidon on the wall, and she says, "So that's the cat this ship is named after, huh?" And he explains who Poseidon was, and a very ill-tempered fellow, the god of the sea, whatever. And this was back in the day before you could, just pull up any image on your computer. But I got one of the original storyboards from the Poseidon Adventure.
Okay, well, this is a very, very big clue.
Well, it was the illustration of Poseidon. And so I had it
right.
perfectly replicated on my leg.
Oh,
right down to the details that were very 1970s there.
Oh, that's really
And
cool.
Poseidon, even he has a shell over his naughty bits because the movie was PG rated. So I didn't want him anatomically correct. I wanted it to be as in the movie. So he's got a shell on his naughty bits.
Well, you got the man himself that the ship was named. I for some reason thought maybe you'd have gotten like Hackman's face or I don't know, the ship upside down.
Ellie Winter's swimming.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. What was that? Acres at the top of the tree.
Oh, Acres, when I became lifelong friends with Carol Lindley, who played the singer, There's Got to Be a Morning After.
He was,
Right, that won the
yeah.
Oscar for Best Song that year. Anyway, so I was the same age as the little boy in the film. Like he and
Oh,
I are contemporaries. So I was hanging out with Carol for years, and we would go to these Poseidon conventions and screenings, and they'd do autographs and they'd screen the film, they'd talk about the film, and I would sort of MC the events. And people assumed I was the little boy from the Poseidon Adventure because we would have been the same age. But speaking of Acres, played by the great Roddy McDowall, I'll never forget. It was shortly before Roddy passed, but he still had the urge. We were in a screening, and I was sitting between Stella Stevens and Roddy McDowall, and his character, spoiler alert, his character perishes, plunges
I think the
from
statute of
ladder.
limitations on spoiler alerts is over.
Especially from 1972.
Yeah.
So he's waving goodbye to his character from the audience. He's waving goodbye to himself as his character plunges, and simultaneously took the opportunity to feel me up. And I was like, wow, it's Roddy McDowall,
Yeah, take it.
let him get up only so far. And he passed away a short time afterwards, but I think I have the distinction of being the last thigh squeezed by Roddy McDowall.
Well, what a claim to fame.
I'm proud of it.
Of your many claims to fame, I'm sure. You've been entertainment correspondent. Is that the word you used to describe your former?
Yeah, but I've had a lot of different roles: entertainment reporter, editor. I've covered a gazillion red carpets and award shows. I've interviewed everybody. So yeah.
Have you ever had a celeb walk out on an interview that you would conduct?
No, I've walked out. I've walked out on Stanley Tucci. I walked out on Reese Witherspoon. Because this is. I'll liken this to the cruise crew shenanigans, because I'm a journalist. I can show you my awards. I'm a serious journalist. Just because I'm talking about entertainment doesn't mean I don't take it very responsibly. I mean, if I'm talking about the death of Michael Jackson or somebody's arrest or a court case or something, there's serious news to be told. Just because it's show business doesn't mean it isn't serious. It's a big deal to most people. And even if it's just sort of because you hate them. Oh, I can't stand show business. But yeah, and sometimes the celebrities themselves will look down at journalists, and and if they're disrespectful, hey, I don't need to be treated that way. I don't need to be treated poorly. I don't care if you won an Oscar. We're people, we're professionals. I'm only here to help you promote this film or television show or book or whatever it is that you're trying to promote. That's the only time they do interviews. So I'm just trying to help you out here, man. Work with me. So yeah, that's what that happens. But the reason I say it reminds me of crewing on cruise ships, having worked as a singer, which brings me great pleasure when I have been booked on cruises as an entertainer, featured entertainer, which is great. You're going on for a few days. They might want you to do 2 or 3 45-minute sets. It's fun. And, I've got my charts. I meet the musicians. We run through it. It's pretty slapdash, but it's, hey, I'm singing for my supper and I get a week's holiday. I get paid week's holiday to do this thing. Gives me enormous personal satisfaction to perform. And then I've also appeared as a speaker. Again, you're paid to do 45-minute sessions. The difference between working as an entertainer and working as an expert, a speaker, is really shocking. The entertainer job is so much more work because you've got to rehearse. I mean, it's more physical. You have to be, it's more labor intensive to rehearse, to have your charts, to do all of that stuff. And yet you feel more like a crew member. If a passenger, don't hug anybody, don't, you can shake hands or fist bump. Don't hug anybody. You can, if somebody wants to use the elevator, let them go first. You're really, the cabins are lower down. You really do feel like a crew member, as opposed to being the speaker. You feel, I don't know.
Like a guest. Yeah.
You feel like a guest. You are a guest. You actually are a guest.
So you get to push in front of people at the buffet.
Yeah, then you don't. Then you get to go in the elevator. No, but you get treated differently by the passengers themselves, because when you're entertaining, you're here to entertain me, perform for me.
People put on their Simon Cowell hat goes on, and they become
like, hey, I have a request. Can you sing this one? It's different. Whereas when you're the expert, hey, you're the authority. Here's what I'm talking about, and it's very interesting, and I like both roles.
So how does it compare on a cruise, going from like interviewing celebrities to doing the speeches, doing all this orating on ships? Obviously, when you're facing a room full of ocean lovers versus insiders of Hollywood, how do they mesh? How do you compare those two?
Yeah, and I've done both. Also, the thing about cruises, which are wonderful, and these theaters are massive. You could have 500 people there at 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it is, and the theaters are beautiful, and you have a captive audience. Especially like when I did the Queen Anne maiden voyage, those people were on that ship for, I don't know, months. And I was only on it I went from New York to Miami, and then I got off and they cleaned my cabin, and Sutton Foster came in to take over, for the next leg, so that, the entertainers or speakers, whatever, they get on and off. And because the passengers, there's only finite number of things to do, they go to everything or almost everything. So if I'm speaking about show business, and I've got audiovisual components to my speeches. So, I mean, it's, if you don't want to look at me, don't worry, there's plenty on the screen for you to look at as well. So I was doing both on Queen Anne. Entertainment would be one gig, and Titanic was another gig. And then I would have book signings, and the gift shop had my books to sell.
Oh, full package, man.
Yeah. So, the name of the game is, and I'm retired now, I don't need to sell my books to live, but that's why am I writing them if I'm not selling them and getting them out there? That's the whole point of writing a book, is so that someone reads it.
So it's called Kindred Spirits, Titanic Tale. There it is. How would you describe it to someone who thinks they know everything there is to know about the Titanic already?
Well, it's a historical fantasy. I had my own reincarnation story about.
Yes, I remember reading that on your Instagram page, I think it was.
Yeah, it was an obscure first-class passenger named Milton Long from Worcester, Massachusetts. And there was not much known about him other than that he perished. And there are certain facts that I have about his 29 years on this planet. And as I was a boy turning into a teenager and into a young adult, a lot of fascinating coincidences that after a while ceased to be coincidences. Like there's something going on. And I'm not a metaphysical dude, but when there's enough evidence, you have to start accepting maybe there's something to it. And I wanted to tell my personal story connection to Milton Long. However, my publisher, I had just written 2 period novels, and my publisher said, if you're telling your story, because of my age, it would be told through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and so on. And he said, I don't want another period book from you. Is there a way for you to tell this story set in the present day? So I fictionalized myself to be a contemporary 29-year-old man, and Milton perished at the age of 29. And so the story goes back and forth between the present and 1912 as I come to deduce who I was, and they become an odd couple. Because of the constraints of Edwardian society, this gay young man could not express himself in the world in which he lived. He comes into the body of a 29-year-old contemporary man who's expressing himself all over Manhattan. So they become an odd couple, and they together, two souls, one body, right. They solve the mystery of what happened to Milton's unrequited love from Titanic, who actually is based on a real Titanic passenger who survived and went on to live to the age of 50. And the thing that people don't seem to realize about Titanic, because it's become so romanticized, they figure, oh, well, you got off the ship, you lived happily ever after because you got off the ship. No, it was like saying you survived 9/11. You dealt with survivor's guilt, post-traumatic stress. People who survived the Titanic did not go on to lead necessarily happy lives. And that's the part of the mystery that Milton and modern me come to solve together. So I think it's an exciting read. Of course, the Titanic is a big part of it, but it's not necessarily a Titanic book. Of course, you're going to see Molly Brown pop in for a cameo.
So it's fiction, but it's also kind of narrative.
Yeah, well, there's the genre of historical fantasy. So yeah, there all the Titanic figures are real, historically based.
Yes.
And I've created a fantasy story around actual events and actual people as my characters.
And what sparked that genre, that kind of collaboration, or that melting together of worlds?
Well, I felt that had happened to me, that Milton. Right. I'm sort of carrying on Milton's legacy to the point of where if I go into a coffee shop and ask for a skinny flat white, they go, Milton, your coffee's ready. I mean, I'm still getting Nelson and Milton, and who the hell is named Milton anymore? But so it is a strange conundrum. And Dr. Robert Ballard, the oceanographer who in 1985 discovered the wreck of the Titanic, that week in 1985, he was the most famous man in the world because for 70 years, no one knew where the Titanic had come to rest. And Ballard found it. He was on the cover of every magazine, on the front page of every newspaper, and I was obsessed. I needed to find Dr. Ballard and have him get me on his exploratory mission as they would dive down. And I don't know who I thought I was. I was some snot-nosed 20-year-old kid, and I got him on the telephone at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and the receptionist, I said, "This is Nelson Aspen calling for Dr. Ballard. I'd like to speak to him, please." She put me on hold, and he picked up the phone, and when he did, he said, "Hello, Milton?" Now, you can't make this stuff up. So that's why I was saying, like, I don't really go for that metaphysical stuff. However, when it's staring you in the face, you got to sort of roll with it.
So he genuinely did pick the phone up and speak to you.
He did. I mean, I wasn't even on hold for a minute. It was unbelievable.
Were you shell shocked? Did you?
Yes, and notice this is how we used the phones in 1985. They looked like this, and they had wires that connected them.
It's not just the phones. The phones are.
Mahalo, dude. So Dr. Ballard heard my spiel. I mean, I did the elevator pitch and just basically was like, yeah, I want to come, because he hadn't gone down yet. Like he'd found it, but they hadn't explored it yet.
You were in your 20s. Did you not like lose your shit? Were you not just
yes, but I'm a professional. I was a child actor. I know how to behave around people.
You kept it together.
So Dr. Ballard, I'm making my case. Please take me with you. He was like, give me all your contact information. And I don't know, a week later in my mailbox, I had an application from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, which was, I mean, he was so kind just to even listen to me for 5 minutes on the phone, but he actually sent me an application. And that's sort of when it became real to me. And I was like, I don't really want to be an oceanographer when I grow up. It sort of hit me like, that's as far as I need to go. But yeah, I have very fond, affectionate feelings for Dr. Ballard.
It's making me want to rewatch The Life Aquatic. The Wes
Yes,
Anderson.
yes,
Wes Anderson. Is it Wes Anderson?
I think so. I think so.
Jacques Cousteau kind of vibes. But that was a nice film.
James Cameron only produced the blockbuster, Oscar-winning Titanic film as an excuse to make dives, because of Avatar. Like he's a water guy, right? So
Yeah.
he wanted to do the dives. So he pitched the movie. So once the movie was greenlit, he could start doing the dives. And if you've ever, his follow-up to Titanic was a more of a documentary film called Ghosts of the Abyss, which chronicles his diving experience. And of course, there's Titanic woven into that story as well.
All the research leading up to the actual production of the film.
That's right. And we went to see Ghosts of the Abyss. And I went with one of my friends who was an actress in James Cameron's Titanic in the original 1997 film. And because we thought maybe they'll use a clip from that. And, we got to make sure she makes money. If they've used her image in the film, we got to make sure she gets paid for that. He didn't use anybody from the 1997 movie in Ghosts of the Abyss, except for one shot of Alexandra Boyd, my friend. And we were cheering in the theater. We're like, call Screen Actors Guild. You're entitled to some money.
What was his character?
Alexandra. She played a first-class lady. And, when Leonardo comes into the dining room all dressed up in his tuxedo, she's the saucy redhead who looks directly into the camera. It's the only time the fourth wall is broken in the film. She looks into the camera as if it's Leonardo's point of view and cocks her eyebrow and sort of gives him the one up and down because who's this handsome man coming into the first-class dining room? So, and that's the shot James Cameron used in Ghost of the Abyss as well. If you want a good laugh, it exists on YouTube. Hangin' with an N apostrophe, Hangin' with Leo, which is a 30-minute documentary. It came out either right after or right after Titanic about that dreamboat. Like it was like a teen dreamboat thing and I was one of the hosts of that. I had lots of hair and it's so bad. It's good. It's really terrible. Hanging with Leo. And it was one of the best-selling VHS tapes of 1998 or whatever it was. I mean, it was a huge hit, but it's so bad. And then when I started interviewing celebrities like Leo, who I interviewed several times, it became a running joke with us that, yeah, I'm the guy from Hanging with Leo. And I became friendly with his mother. We would have Christmas with his mother. And I finally got my hands on an old VHS tape still in the shrink wrap. And the next time I went to interview Leo, I bestowed it upon him as a gift. So he's a very good guy.
I'm going to cut it there for a bit of B-roll from Hanging with Leo to insert to the film.
Leonardo was born and raised in California, and his parents were, for lack of a better word, hippies. So he really did have that sort of free-spirited flower child kind of upbringing. He was encouraged to run around and play and enjoy nature, and he did. He was actually named for Leonardo da Vinci. So that gives you some indication of how artistic his parents were.
Going back to your time cruising as a performer, this is a newish kind of venture since you retired. What was it, just after COVID?
I retired in 2022. Yep. But I was I had a few cruise gigs while I was still working too, because everybody, I was a TV star. So, that was an appealing thing. Oh, you know him from the show and now you can go on a cruise with him. So,
right. Fair enough. But are there any standout memories in the 3 years of being on ships as a performer?
Well, it was funny because I was doing a couple of those before COVID, and there were already health protocols in place. And we were contractually told no embraces, no kissing, that it was all fist bumps, elbow bumps. And to my relief, I'm not a germaphobe, but I don't want to get sick either. To my relief, there were hand sanitizers in every doorway of those ships. And the passengers they were conditioned to constantly do it. And this was before COVID. So then when I did the first cruise after COVID, I thought, oh, now it's really going to be out of control with the hand sanitizer. But it's not. It actually, once COVID was over, I think everybody had really rebelled against the hygiene police.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's much more relaxed. And so the last few cruises I've done since COVID have been super pleasurable.
But have you had any incidents in the 3 years of being on ships? Because you're on quite quick on and off as a fly on act.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, that Ritz-Carlton yacht cruise, I wasn't working that when I was a passenger, but that was a week, and it was great. We didn't want to get off. We stopped at different Virgin Islands, and we only got off. I think once we got off in St. Bart's, but otherwise we didn't ever get off. We just wanted to stay. It was so fantastic. 250 passengers, 200 crew. I mean, we were spoiled, and the food was, it was a Ritz-Carlton, so it was fine dining everywhere. I'm really excited to test out the Queen Mary 2, which is according to what I read, the last ocean liner, of as ocean liners go. It's the last of its kind.
And you were on a good roll there. And I was thinking, because you've been on all these wonderful ships, and it's an old joke. I don't know, you probably heard this one already. A woman was talking about, all this and that. My husband, he works for Cunard, don't you know? And this other woman overhears her and she says, well, my husband works fucking hard as well, but don't hear me going on about it.
I think it would be fair to say that Titanic was not perceived as a pleasure trip. People were not traveling on Titanic for pleasure. They were traveling to get somewhere. And the fact that the White Star Line made it elegant for the first class, and they made it as nice as they could, but White Star Line and all the cruise lines back then, they made their livings off the immigrant trade. It was third class that paid for first class to live in luxury. And there's a marvelous book called The Last Ships from Hamburg, which talks about this exodus and how it created what we perceive as luxury cruising now. And it was really just to transport people getting to America.
Because I think I heard or read somewhere that it was early days of cruising was kind of the only people that traveled by boat before it became commercial was royals, really. And so the rich elite wanted to start going on trips where they could act all posh and suave to emulate their royal idols. And of course, that's what I guess helped also boom the cruising trade to some extent. But you said in your email,
you've got to get somewhere. It's a lovely way to go.
It is, and you said in your email that you've got a love of all the great liners, and you could talk about them for days. Your parents, your parents introduced you to them. Is that so? You mentioned that they instilled a love of cruising in you from an early age. So what's your earliest formative memory that you have?
I was perhaps maybe 6 or 7 when I went on my first cruise, and that was aboard a lovely ship called the Franconia. And there have been other Franconias, and my dad worked for the government of Bermuda. And from where I grew up outside of New York in Philadelphia, Bermuda is an easy trip. I think it's an hour on a plane, but on a ship, it's a couple days, and then you can enjoy Bermuda. But anyway, I was captivated by the ship. And now that I think about it, I fell in love with the ship. That was before the Poseidon Adventure, because the Poseidon Adventure was 72. So when I went to see the Poseidon Adventure, it was because of the ship. I wanted to see the ship. And that was a direct result of my experience on the Franconia. And interesting, too, in the remake of the Poseidon Adventure, Richard Dreyfuss, you were talking about people committing suicide. Richard Dreyfuss's character was a bachelor named Nelson. It was a homosexual middle-aged bachelor named Nelson who decided on the Poseidon that he was going to off himself. And if you've seen that movie, he goes to the railing to do it. And that's when he sees the tidal wave coming at the ship, and he runs back inside and disaster ensues. But
I lost my train of thought there.
I've only watched the remake once. I should maybe
The only thing worth watching in that is the tidal wave. Like that they do that well, but the rest of the movie. And I interviewed the cast for that, and Wolfgang Petersen, who was the director, assured me, because I'm such a purist about the Poseidon Adventure and the original book on which it was based by Paul Gallico, based on his own experience aboard the original Queen Mary, almost capsizing, being hit by a rogue wave when he was crossing. That spawned the novel, and the book is excellent. The ship is really a character when you read the book. And Wolfgang Petersen assured me, I was like, how are you going to tell the story of the Poseidon Adventure that wasn't already done by Irwin Allen in 1972? And he said, because in this, the ship will be a character. And when you watch that movie, it's not, you don't feel anything for the ship.
It's CGI in lots of places, and
and it doesn't have much character. The Poseidon was basically the Queen Mary, the original Queen Mary, which has a personality. The best ships do. The Franconia did. I did a couple of the Royal Viking lines, the Royal Viking Sky and the Royal Viking Sea, and those ships had personalities. When I went on, my parents were very smart people. They recognized that a career in show business was in my future. And when I was a very overweight, awkward, unhappy 14 or 15-year-old in 1977, they took it upon themselves. They were not in the entertainment industry. They found there was a cruise being sponsored by the American Film Institute, where all these great film stars of yesteryear would be the special guests on this cruise. And so my parents, knowing what a fanatic I was about cruising, they sent me on this cruise because they wanted me to meet like-minded people from the entertainment industry. I mean, my parents, that it's unbelievable. This is the difference between it's magic. And now that I don't have my parents anymore, it really is shocking to me how switched on they were. Enough things like that. So I went on this cruise. Yeah. Yes, and I went. Well, Olivia de Havilland was one of the special guests. Oscar-winning star of Gone with the Wind and the Adventures of Robin Hood, everything. I mean, she was a huge star of the silver screen, and her beautiful daughter Giselle, who was only 20 at the time. So Giselle and I palled around the ship together, and I got to have dinner with Olivia de Havilland, this chubby little 15-year-old who bought his first suit and barely knew how to tie a tie. Glenn Ford and his wife, and director King Vidor, who was in his 90s then. He was a silent film director. And I remember I had them all sign my menu at dinner one night. And I sadly, stupidly sold that menu on eBay. When eBay came out and you could sell anything, I'll sell this pen, I'll sell this lamp. People will buy anything on eBay. And I stupidly sold off a lot lot of my memorabilia.
How much you get for the menu?
Maybe a couple $100, and I regret it, but I should have kept it. It would be beautifully framed in my dining room now, or something.
It's a core memory, yeah.
Oh. And you talk about. I'm sure you've had lots of podcasts talking about the sexual shenanigans that go on. That cruise.
I've got no idea what you're talking about, Nelson. Please continue.
Well, no, I was 15 years old, and that cruise, I remember, that was the first time I kissed a boy. It was the first time I tried smoking. It was the first time I got tipsy. Those were firsts because, I was playing with the grown-ups.
It was the first time when I worked on board that I was exposed to gay culture, because from where I'm from in Essex, there's really not very many that I grew up with. And I was 18, I was surrounded by all these dancers and singers, and they're all like, you know what, Sam, by the end of this contract, we'll have turned you. I was like, yeah, no, good luck trying.
I'm sure they all enjoyed trying. That's getting there is half the fun.
But sorry, I jumped in there.
Well, you know what? They still have something. The next cruise you work, maybe they'll be trying again. Now, with a little, the older you get, you attract a whole new audience. Sometimes I find that, if they start calling you daddy, you'll know why. But I did some cruise. It was like a cruise. Oh no, it was.
I was surprising my parents. My parents were going on a cruise with some other friends, the four of them. So I took a friend, and I was like, look, you want to come on a cruise with me? We're going to surprise my parents. And we turned up on the same ship, and it was great. But, I was in my early 20s. I was looking good. And the cruise director, now this would not happen today. The cruise director would not be, I believe, I can't imagine a cruise director would be getting into shenanigans in 2025. It wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. But back in the 80s, everyone was, and I remember, and we had an inside cabin because I booked it at the last minute to surprise my parents, and we had this, dark, windowless inside cabin, and my friend and I, there were twin beds. She was in one bed, I was in the other, but I had, gotten home late after, hanging out with the cruise director. And in the morning, how they make the announcements, sometimes they make announcements, and we're in the dark. So you just imagine you're in complete darkness, and we're hearing this announcement. His name was Andrew. Andrew was like, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and these are your events for today." And he's going through the whole thing. And then, and she and I are like listening to this in the blackness of the room. And then he says, "And I'd like to extend a special good morning to my new friend, Nelson Aspen." And we started screaming and turning on all the lights, and we're like, "What's happening?" My parents were like, later in the day, they were like, "What was up with that? How do you know the cruise director?"
Whoa.
And I was like, biblically.
Have you ever seen Avenue 5?
No, what's that?
It's annoyingly it got cancelled, but it's a TV show with Hugh Laurie, and it's a cruise ship in space, and it did 2 seasons. Coming. Hugh Laurie is the American captain who speaks with all this bravado and reassuring, but when he's not on the mic, he's his babbling English self.
That's great.
And it's got a lot of people in it, like Daisy May Cooper, and I forget his name from The Office. He was in Silicon Valley. I love him. He's great.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds brilliant.
Avenue 5. Yeah, check it out. It was good. I was sad it got cancelled. I did a day on it, filming in, I think it was Warner Brothers Studios in Leavesden. And basically, the premise of the show is that there's all these passengers on this ship for a 2-3 week pleasure cruise in space. Something knocks it off its course, and now that's going to be 2-3 years in space. So they keep it a secret from all the passengers, and then as things start to unravel, they have to announce it, and that's when everyone goes into panic mode, and they all kind of sort of splinter off into all these different factions. And one of the groups that I was an extra for was called the Cuddle Club. And we had to go in for a costume fitting with all these soft, fluffy costume bits on. And then, we were in this gymnasium in couples standing in hula hoops. Didn't matter. Old men, young women, everyone was cuddling everybody one at a time inside these hula hoops, and just like a guided meditation. It was such a weird day on set, but it was quite like chicken soup for the soul.
Remember, you may pat and caress all non-erogenous zones.
At this point, my entire body is non-erogenous.
I can confirm that. Okay, cuddlers, find a new cuddly.
I would think that would be a great ongoing gig. If you were a background actor in a show that, you're stranded in space, they would need the same background actor episode after episode. So
yeah, well, I did enjoy the one day I got to, because it's a big ship, right? So they can pretend like there's, like
Star Trek, like the Enterprise.
Yeah, but I don't know, if the biggest cruise ship on the world can hold nearly 10,000 souls on board, let's assume this ship on this TV show held more than that and then some, because they didn't call me back for another day. But your knowledge,
they would have. If they'd been renewed for another season, they would have.
I want them to bring it back. But so you know a lot about ships.
My favorite part of any ship is the engine room, and you can't usually, not many ships will give you a tour of the engine room, but I don't know, that is my favorite place to see. It's always great to see the bridge and the dining salon, but give me an engine room. I think that's the most fascinating.
Well, do you know what the difference is between like a crew, like a liner, a ship, an ocean liner, and a cruise ship?
Well, yeah, isn't an ocean liner is to transport you from one place to the other, as opposed to just for recreational purposes.
Right, okay. And you said earlier you were on the maiden voyage of the Queen Anne.
Yes, I was.
That's what that's about.
That's
What
what
was
this.
that? What was that like being part of a ship's very first chapter?
Well, they had departed from, I believe, Southampton, and then and it was New Year's. I guess they departed Southampton at the end of December, and then they picked us up in New York. And so we got on. It was very exciting because it was the first time for everything. I think it was Cunard's first female captain as well, and it was just glorious. And the restaurants were great. The whole perception, there weren't any, like, the whole perception of overstuffing yourself at buffets and all you can eat this, that, or the other thing.
A bit more
That was not the
civilized.
case. It was very civilized. And my husband has been on Queen Mary 2 previously. I have not until that's coming up. And so I'm really, really thrilled that we're going to get to experience that. And that is their flagship and the last ocean liner. So it's going to be very special.
The very last ocean liner. What? There's no one.
I don't believe any other ship qualifies as an ocean liner anymore. That only the Queen Mary 2 is the last and only, as I understand it.
What are the defining characteristics that make it qualify as an ocean liner? Is it
because it is designed to transport from one place to the other?
so it doesn't have like a swimming pool and
I'm sure it must. I'm sure it will have all the luxurious trappings. Thank God, no water slides.
that's something to ask. So yeah, because there's cruising, like you said, with the yacht type of cruise, the very lovely one, and then there's all these ships that you've named, which is like for some people, companies like Cunard, they exemplify that style, that Titanic glamour of
Yes.
what it is to go on a cruise. So a lot of people kind of put off by that because it seems a bit too hoity-toity, right? It's not for them. They want to go and down the pub or holiday parks or whatever. But then
There are
you've
plenty
got
of options for those people where they can have burgers and movie nights and I don't and water slides.
yeah.
And an amusement park at sea, and there's certainly a market for that. I don't have children. I don't need to entertain my kids, which is a factor for families who want to go on holiday together. I don't know how I would feel on a Disney cruise, but if I had young kids that love Disney characters, it would probably be a great thing.
Because you're doing your talks and you're singing only on these more classical types of ships. You're not going on Carnival, Royal Caribbean companies.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. The P.O. cruise I did, which was super fun, but you don't see a lot of kids on those ships because they've got to go to school. Like I don't know, they're longer voyages, but cruise director from the P&O ship I was on is now on the Margaritaville ship, and I read mixed reviews about it. But
What's the Margaritaville ship?
I think it's called the Margaritaville. That's the name of the ship, and it's party ship. And I look on her Instagram account. She's having a hell of a good time, and she's a terrifically talented woman. She's a singer and an entertainer, but she's the entertainment director, cruise director, and she's marvelous. And she's loving the Margaritaville, and it's much more of a party ship.
But it's like the Jimmy Buffett song.
Yeah.
Right. So people would expect a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely. The Margaritaville's a series of when Jimmy Buffett was, marketing that, he had a line of hotels and restaurants or something as well, Margaritaville. So it's a whole brand.
Somebody said, I can't remember who it was, they said that Carnival is like the Walmart of the sea.
Well, Carnival owns Cunard, so
Carnival owns nearly everyone.
But that's like anything else. There are levels of entertainment, whether that's the front of the plane or the back of the plane, or what an airline where you have assigned seating versus non-assigned seating. And that's the world we live in, and the corporate world as well. Everything has different levels of service.
If there was a ship from history besides the Titanic,
I
wouldn't get on the Titanic. Are you kidding me?
No, okay, but you don't know.
I already did that once.
Okay, yeah, you're going on a VR version of it. Do you have a favorite ship though, past or present?
I wish I could go back to the Franconia and see if it was as magnificent as my 6 or 7 year old brain remembers.
It never is.
I love a good maritime disaster historically. So I would love to experience the Lusitania. I would love to experience the Andrea Doria. I did a book signing in Baltimore. And I chose the venue in Baltimore, Maryland, because it was an Italian restaurant owned by this lovely old Italian lady who came to America on the Andrea Doria, not the last voyage of the Andrea Doria, but she emigrated to America aboard the Andrea Doria. And I thought that would be a good hook for publicity. And we did. We got a lot of publicity because did you know that beloved restaurateur Gia Frascieri came to America on the Andrea Doria? She's now having a Titanic book signing. So yeah, I love all those connections. I did a cruise to nowhere once. I was young, and that was a party ship too, and it didn't go anywhere. It just went out into the ocean, parked, and then a couple days later came back. That was very interesting and a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess I would go with Franconia. And have you ever been to the original Queen Mary, which is permanently docked?
Long Beach. I was on a Carnival ship for 6 months that was alongside it, and never got the chance.
For 6 months, you sat beside it?
Well, I may have had the chance. I just didn't see the inclination. I was like, why would I go aboard another ship when I'm on a ship all the time? I guess back then, I didn't really care about things like I care about them now. The job was, was a lot. And every time I wanted to get off the ship, I just wanted to go anywhere but a ship.
Sure. Well, all right. Well, fortunately, it's still there.
It's still there.
You haven't exhausted your opportunity. And I'm very sad to say that, the ship-loving community has been very distressed about the fate of the SS United States. That is a ship, if I could go back to be on board that ship in its heyday, certainly jump at that. And so, yeah, so it's theoretically going to be turned into a coral reef, although there are some last-ditch efforts to try and save it and maybe restore it as a historical site, and similar to the way the Queen Mary is in Long Beach.
What would it be? Would it be like sacrilege to turn it into like a water park?
Oh, yeah. The Queen Mary in Long Beach has its own elements of, it feels a bit like an amusement park at times.
Oh, really?
But yeah, sometimes, they're open to the public. I think the city of Long Beach owns it. I think that's owns the ship. So, they have lots of themed goings on there. It's a place to go in Long Beach, whether you're a ship lover or not.
It's an events venue, yeah.
Yeah. The Normandy, the France, the classic ocean liners of their day would all appeal to me. When I was doing one of the morning shows, they sent me over to Dublin for a week. And so to Ireland in general. I was starting out in Dublin, and they said, well, what would you like to do? We'll film you going around and doing different Irish things. I'm a runner, so I did an Irish running tour in Galway. So I went running I did a guided tour with runners. That was fun. But then they took me to Cove, which was renamed from Queenstown, the last stop Titanic made before she sailed on to meet her fate. And I met the most lovely man in Cove, Ireland, Dr. Michael Martin. We're still friends to this day. And he has a tour called the Titanic Trail, where you start at the hotel where passengers would have come to
get on board Titanic. And a lot of the historical buildings and, you touch the railing, that's the same railing that people were holding on to when they got on to board Titanic. And it's also, Cove is also known not only for being the last stop of Titanic, but when the Lusitania sank, the local fishermen in Cove went out. It was close enough to Cove, went out to help and aid in picking people up out of the sea. Wow. And there are wonderful monuments to both the Titanic, the Lusitania, the heroes, the lost. It's a beautiful spot if you're ever in Ireland. And the ultimate Irish destination for any ship lover must be Belfast. And I had been to Belfast twice, right after the Troubles had come to a close. And I recently, this year, went back for my book signing because the Titanic Museum in Belfast is one of the greatest, whether or not you like Titanic, it's one of the greatest museums on the planet. And they have restored Thomas Andrew, who designed the Titanic, famously went down with the ship. His original drawing offices have been immaculately restored. And I had a book signing in the drawing offices of the Titanic Hotel in Belfast. There's a Titanic Distillers. I mean, Titanic has taken over the city of Belfast, and it's fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. So this October of 2026, I'm taking, you can go on my website, just go on nelsonaspen.com, click on travel. I'm taking like-minded tourists on a tour around Ireland. It's a 13-day, everything's included in the price. And we start in Dublin and we work our way around Ireland and end up in Belfast. So the last 2 days of the trip.
When you take a round, are they all running or are they walking?
No. It's all we have our own coach. So we'll all be riding in comfort, staying in comfort. But we start in Dublin and we travel around every day or 2 days to a different spot and see the beautiful Emerald Isle and ending in Belfast. So I can't wait. So I'm like-minded people. If you have any interest in Ireland and you're watching this, reach out to me and I'll get you all the information.
And you mentioned it earlier. You've got a podcast. You're the host, I'm assuming.
I co-host it with my friend who I mentioned earlier, Alexandra Boyd, who was an actress in Titanic. And she, now as time has passed, she and I have been friends since the 80s. And when she was auditioning for James Cameron's Titanic, the criteria was you had to write your own monologue from the point of view of a Titanic passenger. Now, this was 1996, before the internet. So she called me in a panic and she's like, I've got to write a monologue. I don't know anything about the Titanic. You know everything about the Titanic. I'm like, okay, you're going to be the Countess of Roth, who handled the tiller of lifeboat number 8. We're going to write you your monologue. And she didn't get the part of the Countess, but she got a part. And she had this amazing experience of being on the set of James Cameron's Titanic for months and making friends with the others. She had the genius idea to get all of her co-stars who were playing all the important supporting roles in the film to write their diaries of the experience. So flash forward 25 years later, she made a documentary called Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries, where she gets the actors 25 years later to reread aloud. They hadn't seen these for 25 years, and they reread them, and it's very emotional. So it's fun for fans of the film, but it's also a very well-made documentary. And I appear in it briefly to talk about my helping her with the audition and also my connection to my past life as Milton aboard the Titanic. But in the process of promoting her documentary, she said, what can we do to get publicity? And I said, we should do a podcast. And call it Titanic Talk. And she and I will just talk to somebody. We'll start with all the actors from Titanic. And then, we'll reach out, we'll talk to. Well, it exploded because as I mentioned earlier, we just found out we were ranked there are a lot of Titanic podcasts out there and we're ranked number 4. I'm striving to get up to number 1, but for now we're number 4. I never dreamed we'd be speaking to all these important Titanic legacy people, historians and artifact collectors and museum curators. And it has become really extraordinary. And she lives on the west coast of America, and I live in New York City on the east coast. So it's a marvelous way for Alexandra and I to stay in touch and have this platform together. And we have traveled. We did a Titanic weekend on the Queen Mary in Long Beach. She was selling DVDs of her film. I was selling copies of my book and meeting other like-minded folks. So we've really created a family of like-minded friends.
And what would you say, because obviously each episode that you record is with a different specialist person who was an actor in the film. Top of your head, are there any like surprising factoids that you've been very like, oh, I didn't know that?
A woman whose whole raison d'etre is to painstakingly recreate the costumes from Titanic. Another is to make miniatures of the fashions, like museum quality miniatures. Collectors who have spent their life savings purchasing things, curators of museums, authors, historians. That's how I know that Last Ship from Hamburg book. I was I'm a college dropout, but I do belong to the Harvard Club because I married a very smart man. And at the Harvard Club, they have lectures and all sorts of fascinating, intellectual, stimulating things going on. And there was this gentleman, Stephen Ujafusa, who wrote this book about the shipping line immigrant trade. So guests like him to have on the show are fascinating. We did an episode about why are kids fascinated with Titanic. You know, you wouldn't think that a disaster like that would be appealing to 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and yet it is. Kids love the Titanic. So we had an episode about Titanic kids. You know, there's no end. We've done 60 episodes, and you know, we're like, we got to take a break for a while. But people are constantly, hey, putting their hand up. Wait till you hear what I have to say about Titanic. And at that Titanic weekend, we met a guy who was attending, this charming, charismatic guy, Clinton Benelli, who is an undertaker. He's a mortician, and he actually teaches the art of mortuary. It sounds morbid, but hey, it's a fact of life. We're all going to need one someday.
Yeah.
And he's such a Titanic enthusiast. He's got a tattoo with a quote from a Titanic passenger. He's just a terrific guy.
Please, I have a child.
Yeah, no, not from the movie, from an actual from a real person, not Billy Zane. But Billy Zane is not a real person.
That's my favorite quote.
But fascinating. I decided we should do an episode on how the bodies that were recovered from Titanic were treated. What was the process of preserving them? Why were some preserved and some buried at sea? It might not surprise you to know there was a class system even in death. And it's remarkable how many first-class passengers' bodies got home to their families as opposed to third-class passengers. Mm. But Clinton did his research, and he has the expertise as a mortician, and he's just a terrific character himself. That was really one of my favorite episodes, and one of our most highly clicked on, because it's not an aspect. Another gentleman wrote a book called The Six, about the 6 Chinese passengers, 6 survivors of Titanic that were not exploited in James Cameron's film. We don't really know their story, and interestingly, because of the Chinese ban on the American ban on Chinese people in 1912. They were not, when they were rescued on the Carpathia, they were not allowed to disembark in New York. When they got back to, when they survived this ordeal, picked out of the water. The whole idea for Kate Winslet floating on the door, that was taken from a Chinese survivor. It was the Chinese survivor that was floating on the door. Wow. And when they got to America, they were not allowed to get off the ship. And then they were put on another ship and sent to England. I think they were coming here to transfer to another ship to go work, I don't know, on the railroads in Canada or something. They were there as workers. They were coming to America to get on another ship to go somewhere else.
When was that ban lifted then? Because isn't chow mein an American invention?
There was a fear, as I understand it, there was a fear because so many Chinese immigrants had come to build the railroad system in America, that there was a concern that there were too many Chinese immigrants. And so there was a ban on any more Chinese coming into the States.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, that was finally overturned, but not in 1912. It was still going on in 1912.
Imagine that, though. Your frustration at being finally back on dry land, but just within touching distance of it, and not sorry, mate.
And to survive that ordeal.
But then why were they headed there in the first place if they didn't know there was a ban?
Yeah. But they were commissioned to go to go somewhere else and work. Like it was a transit. It was, remember when I said the Titanic really existed as transport?
Yes.
It wasn't a pleasure trip. It was the nicest way to travel, but it was a floating bus. It was just to get you from Europe to America.
But New York was the final destination.
Correct.
So they weren't planning on getting off anywhere between.
No. It went from Southampton to Cherbourg, France, quick stop in Ireland, and then there was supposed to be to New York. So, but the Carpathia got them to New York, and then they never were able to walk around. They had to get off the rescue ship and onto another ship.
Wow. I mean, there's so many cases that we've yet to uncover, and it's a great thing about meeting people in a vacuum, right? In a sense of ownership, everything's so much more condensed, it feels like, because
you become friends like this too.
Yeah.
I'm still in touch with a lot of people I've met on cruises because you form these really intense friendships very fast.
Yeah. What about that cruise director?
Andrew.
Yeah. Still in touch with Andy?
No, I'm not in touch with Andrew anymore.
I'm sure your husband wouldn't be too approving of that friendship if it persisted.
But I had dinner last night with my friend. We're still friends after 40 years, who I went on that cruise with. And we almost every time we get together, we laugh about that. That's, those are the moments that bond you.
Most definitely. I just saw an ad for it the other day, actually. There's like a PlayStation game they're making about escaping the Titanic.
Oh, yeah, I know that there's it's very, very popular on YouTube. Titanic Honor and Glory, named for the famous clock. If you remember on this grand staircase, the clock, the sculpture around that clock was called Honor and Glory. Honoring
right.
time.
Okay, my mind went elsewhere. I was thinking of like Medal of Honor, and I was thinking there was like a shoot 'em up on a Titanic adventure.
but Titanic Honor and Glory is a company that does digital recreation, really beautiful work, and they have been a part of this the games that you can play, Titanic sinking in real time. Like they did that on the anniversary of the sinking. They played the digital recreation of Titanic sinking in real time, it's very moving. It's surprisingly moving. And then, this immersive experience that I'm doing in New York City, where you put the helmet on and you dive to the Titanic. And it's interesting because after the Titan implosion, when the submersible imploded on its way down to the wreck, tragically killing all 5 passengers, Dr. Ballard, who discovered the wreck, spoke often about why you shouldn't do that. You first of all, it's a grave site. So you can explore it to a certain degree. Anything that's debris, that's ripe for you can take that, but you can't ethically, I think. If you want to pick up a dish off the ocean floor, nobody has the rights to a dish on the ocean floor. But the ship itself, I feel, should be hallowed ground. 1,500 people, it's their tomb, so to speak.
Yeah.
However, now with the deteriorating condition of the wreck, it was dangerous under the best of circumstances. It's a folly at this stage of the game to do that. And Dr. Ballard was the first one to say, with AI now, there is no reason to dive to the wreck. You can experience the wreck. They've captured everything now so that it can be recreated. There's no reason to put your life at risk or desecrate sacred ground. And I would tend to agree with him. So with the Titan implosion, of course, I was very sought after on television and radio to talk about that as, being the Titanic guy. And I thought, the same elements that went into the original Titanic disaster went into the Titan implosion. It was a hubris, an issue of hubris. It was money over sense. SENSE, not CENTS. And, I thought, wow, over 100 years later, the Titanic is still killing people for the same reason, the same arrogance that, nothing bad could possibly happen. And what's fascinating to me, if you saw the Netflix documentary.
Oh, I did watch the
Titan Ocean Gate disaster.
Yes.
Well, because the world is a very small place, my book got into the hands of an executive producer from that documentary. He loved my book, and we have signed the contracts, and he is developing it as he's adapting my book as a screenplay. So there are more Titanic tales to be told. And, when we talk about what good things can come out of a tragedy, there are many things that, in the Titanic case, improved safety at sea. It's just that simple. Because of the Titanic tragedy, it improved immediately the conditions of safety at sea. So you just never know where good things can happen out of bad things.
Are there any roles in your book for characters that are heterosexuals who are trying to be
who like to cuddle?
That are trying to stay on the straight and narrow path, but there's deviants, shall we call them, that keep trying to get them to bat for the other team?
I think what you need to do is read Kindred Spirits, A Titanic Tale. You tell me what role you like, and I'll put in a good word for you.
Have you done it as an audiobook?
No. What's interesting about the publisher, this is my Kindred Spirits was my 10th book, and I've got 2 more coming out in 2026. 3 books ago, they said, with the advance of AI, if you would like the audiobook version, it's the push of a button, and the computer we will produce. And the performer in me was like, absolutely
no,
I will record it myself. And it took me like 2 weeks. It was exhausting. It was brutal. It took me 2 weeks to do the audiobook, and it's still in the editing process. I think if I ever do it, I'll just bite the bullet and go with the AI.
No, don't do it, because I hate the robot and I hate the falseness of it. It's never going to be as good as a human. I did my own one.
The audio version.
Yeah, I did it was over 200 hours in like the recording.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So you've literally got all this intrigue and fascination with shipping disasters, but you yourself and all your ships and all your years of going on them, you've had a pretty frictionless ride.
Yeah, there have been a few bumpy voyages, but the 8-year-old boy in me from the Poseidon Adventure just, loves that stuff. And I spend an inadvertent amount of time looking at YouTube videos of people, with rolling seas and high seas and all of that stuff. But yeah, so I touch wood, all of my cruises have been smooth sailing, so to speak.
How do you think you'd react if you were in a disaster?
Well, I like to think I would be more like Gene Hackman than Carol Lindley in the Poseidon Adventure, and I would. Although I have to say, as you look at those skinny little arms, as if he could turn that thing. That was preposterous.
What more do you want?
I have a child, so. But I have to say, in the Poseidon Adventure, I would have listened to the purser who said, stay in the dining room. Don't climb he said, climbing to another deck will kill you all.
Yeah.
And I would trust the purser over I'd probably be more like Ernest Borgnine's character, by the book, law and order guy.
Yeah. He was brilliant in that.
Ernest Borgnine? Oh, yeah.
Rogo. He was great.
Very good. Mike Rogo. And Borgnine, Shelley Winters, Jack Albertson, Red Buttons, and there's one more. Oh, Arthur O'Connell, who played the old priest. Those 5 actors, and Shelley Winters, those 6 actors had all been Oscar winners when they made the Poseidon Adventure. And during the filming of Poseidon Adventure, Gene Hackman won his Oscar for French Connection. So the other actors all brought their Oscars to the set that day, and they had a big cake for Gene Hackman to congratulate him on winning an Oscar. And as my friends who worked on the film told me, unfortunately, and God rest his soul, Gene Hackman was one of the greatest actors of his generation, but he did not enjoy making the Poseidon Adventure. He was not, by all accounts, easy to work with because he had just done French Connection, and he felt like he was too good to be doing Poseidon Adventure, which is
because they had budget problems, didn't they? Like they had issues with the budget, and maybe he felt
there were a lot of issues with getting it made, but it's sad that it was not a happier experience for Gene Hackman, because the other cast members, remember it with an affection that Gene Hackman did not have for the film. And if you read the book is pretty racy. The Poseidon Adventure by Paul Gallico is pretty racy. And I will warn your audience that my book
is equally racy.
It is for adults only. When I'm doing book signings, and there are kids that love the Titanic, and you see these kids come up and like, "Mommy, I want to buy the book," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no."
So it's
not a
like
children's book.
50 Shades of Grey at sea.
It's pretty adult. I'm dying for you to read it so you can pick your role.
No, I'm waiting for the audio book, mate.
Unless I push that AI button, you have to keep waiting. You must come to New York City, and when you do, I'll take you around to some of the more nautical aspects, which I think you would enjoy. And there's actually, I can see it.
Is there a steamship out beside your window?
No, but straight down. I can see the Hudson River from my desk here, and there's a fantastic. Actually, I wrote it into the book as a scene. There's an old warship from the Vietnam War and they've now turned it into a floating restaurant, and it's so much fun to sit outside on a lovely day, and it's like burgers and frozen drinks and things like that. Called Baylander, but I'm not far from the docks. And of course, the bigger ships like Queen Mary II and Queen Anne, they have to go to the Brooklyn docks because they're so massive. But there's a lot of Titanic history and a lot of nautical history here in New York City. And if nothing else, we'll just go to the Harvard Club and have a martini.
Hey, sign me up, man! That and the Belfast tour. I haven't had a holiday in ages.
You know what? They have land-only packages. So if you want to come along on the Irish trip, you can choose the land-only option. Make your own way to Dublin. You don't have to, get to Dublin and then join the tour from there.
Well, I'm fast approaching 40. I've still got a while before my retirement, but if this picks up, hopefully I can have a few holidays here and there, Nelson.
Have a jolly holiday. You're entitled. You deserve it.
It's a jolly holiday with Mary. I wonder that it's Mary that we love.
So what's next after the book that you've just finished writing? Is there another book on the horizon?
2 more books coming in. You can see it's starting to get dark here in New York. 2 more books coming in 2026 around Valentine's Day. Will be the 3rd in my Dancing Between the Raindrops trilogy. And Dancing Between the Raindrops is what my dad used to say to me when I would come home from wild times in the 1980s. And he's like, I don't know how you survive. It's like you're dancing between the raindrops.
That's a nice turn of phrase.
People were interested in my writing an autobiography. And I thought, my brain's fried. I can't remember everything accurately. And if you're going to write an autobiography, it has to be accurate. So I decided I'll dramatize it, and it'll be 90% true. So I did the first one, which was about my 1980s in New York City. Then the second one was called Dancing Between the Raindrops, The Hollywood Years, which chronicled my 22 years of living in LA and all the shenanigans there. And then the third one, which will come out for Valentine's Day, is Dancing Between the Raindrops, Happily Ever After, which explains, how it's all worked out. And then
Return of the Jedi.
And exactly. And my books are all scandalously sexy, naughty, steamy, because Jackie Collins was a mentor of mine, and she told me, put the sex in. Even if people say they're offended by it, they still want to read it. She goes, put the sex in, it will sell the book. So for Earth Day, April 22nd, my very first children's book will be coming out called The Magnificent Mr. and Mrs. Maple. And I'm very proud of it. I didn't know I had a children's book in me, and that will be coming in April, and I'm delighted with it. The illustrations are gorgeous. The story is very sweet, and I think will help a lot of kids.
Oh, that's brilliant. I look forward to to catching up with you a bit later on and hearing about how that's going. What did you say the one was called? Dancing Between the
Dancing Between the Raindrops, the Happily Ever After. So
Yeah. Is
two of
that
them are out. The third one's coming.
going to be made into a trilogy of films?
Funny you mention it. When I only wrote the first one, when it was just the first book, there was a lot of interest in it from several different production companies. And ultimately, I kept getting the same excuse because it was kind of like my version of Sex in the City, 1980s New York. And the response was, we don't want to do just an 80s show. Like there are already like 80s shows in development or whatever. So I was like, when I get all three books, you'll have a nice 50 years to choose from. So when the third one comes out, we'll pursue that. But right now I'm focused on Kindred Spirits, the movie.
Yeah. Well, who would you? So for your one though, who would you like to have to play you?
I have my eye on a certain. His name wouldn't mean anything to you. He's on an American soap opera, and he's the right age. He's the right look, or my idealized version of how I would have liked to look at 29. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of the thing that I said to the fellow who's adapting the screenplay. I said we can throw a couple stars in there as supporting characters or cameo roles or something like that, as a gimmick. Oh, like get Susan Sarandon to be Molly Brown. She can row the lifeboat. But
Yeah.
this should be
The
a
new
star.
she's the new money one, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Molly Brown, the unsinkable Molly Brown. But I think for my story, if it were to be on the big screen, it's a star making opportunity.
Right. So you don't want someone who's already a star.
Correct. We can stunt cast some of the supporting roles or a cameo role, but I think for the leads they should be new talent.
Mm.
So if you know any hot 29-year-olds, send them my way.
I was 29 once. No, I don't know any hot 29-year-olds on my speed dial, unfortunately, Nelson. But hey, I might bump into them on set, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I know someone who might need you."
It's a sign you're getting older. I mean, as I'm 62. You have a long way to go. But
Yeah.
I when I was trying to think of like, well, who are some prototypes for a 29-year-old leading man? The only thing I could really come up with was Jonathan Bailey or Timothy Chalamet. Like I just don't have a point of reference. It's too young for me.
What
But
about Joe? Is it Joe Keery? I quite like him as Steve Harrington in Stranger Things.
oh yeah. See, I mean, they're out there. There's no shortage of actors. That's for one thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
There is a shortage of our handymen. That's why it's good to know that you're handy.
Well, I do my part. I do my best, but I came home today and I immediately was like, "Oh, I've got to get ready. I've got to get ready." But the first thing I wanted to do was lie down on my back roller and just kind of stretch out because I was doing a lot of heavy lifting for these guys today, and I earned my money. But yeah, as I said, it's nice to be used. It's nice to be able to be useful. Too many days consecutively sitting behind the screen editing, and you get square eyes,
Yeah.
and you're begging to go out and do stuff. Like I
And
spent.
you're doing something physical. You're not only doing something that's helping people and making money doing it, but you're doing something physical. I remember back when I was young, and whenever anybody would ask for help moving, like moving is the worst.
Mm.
But I would always put my hand up to help people move because I figure you're doing them a huge favor. It's a huge favor to help someone move.
It
And
is.
you can get it back. Then they owe you one, so you can ask for a favor.
Yeah.
And physical. It's good for you to climb steps and lift boxes. It's good.
My sister's looking to call in some favors very soon because she's moving, and I've told her my day rate, but she's like, "I'll pay you in pizza."
Do it.
But then, do you know what was fun today? Because there was the big storage bins where they keep all of their stock and supplies and this and that. We were clearing a whole load of it out, Nelson, taking it down in the lift, and then there was a van that came to collect it and throw it away at the tip, and we were just hurling it as hard as we could into the back of this thing. It's like free therapy, just smash this shit in the back of this van, because every other day I'm tiptoeing around, being very careful not to damage the walls, millimeter precise, got to do this, make sure it's straight and all this stuff. So today was just like, I could throw things and be heavy handed. Oh, this is great fun.
Therapy. It was inadvertent therapy for you.
Well, they have
And
these rage rooms now, don't they, where you pay to go and smash shit up. Would you go to one of those?
I remember there was a trend in the 70s with these. They sort of looked like baseball bats, but they were pillows where you would hit people with them. You'd hit each other just to get out your aggression. But
I think there should be more of those, but like obviously regulated, because like Pleasure Island in Pinocchio.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, when the kids are smoking, then they turn out to be jackasses. But for the modern, you know, for everyone that's kind of stressing out over social media and all of these things, and you know their emotions are getting the better of them, go to a stressful rage room. I think that sort you out. But yeah, of all the books you've written and everything you've got going on, it's incredible, and I'm looking forward to listening and the podcast, the book that you've got, reading through that at some point.
Yeah, and you've got to pick your role, and sexy bits. You and your girl can read it in bed together and see. Maybe it'll stimulate some romance there. But I'm very grateful to her, because if she hadn't seen that YouTube video of me gossiping, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So she's a great talent booker for you.
Well, don't give her too big a head. She might start asking for money that's not coming in. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I've had so much fun talking with you this evening, Nelson. And I wish you every success in the upcoming talks that you're going to do in January. By the time this comes out, that will have long passed. Or I don't know exactly when. But I wish you all the success in the world, my friend.
I right back at you, and now we're in each other's clutches. So come see me in New York, and drinks on me.
Nice one. Oh, I look forward to it. Thanks again. Really appreciate your time today, and bon voyage.
Thanks, my friend.
Bye-bye, mate. All the best. Take care. So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of Deck Tales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. There are lots of other shows out there to compete with, so if you are enjoying Deck Tales, why not help us out by going over to Spotify or Apple and dropping us a 5-star rating. This will boost the show's visibility and help to attract new listeners every week. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your Captain Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on Deck Tales. Bon voyage!